Hello everyone, and welcome back to another Babylon 9's video with myself and Sloth today. A little bit of potential controversy behind scenes, Sloth. Again, we don't want to go into if it's true or false or not, but this is the rumours going around Mo Kudus and why he was taken off at halftime against Brentford last weekend. And it was a potential conflict between Kudus and Lopetegui at halftime. The rumours are that Lopetegui isn't particularly happy with Kudus and the fact that he's not passing the ball as much as he should be, to put it that way. You know, he's someone that's carrying the ball a little bit too much, not being what people are saying is a team player, which is, again, passing the ball, moving on quickly, not trying to do everything by yourself. First things first off, what are your initial thoughts to kind of the rumors going round? I know we have to take it with a pinch of salt, but is it a little bit of a concern that this is happening so early on in the season with one of our key players like Mo Kudus?
It's a massive concern. I think it's something that I heard from someone that I trust, and they don't really make stuff up. They don't really gossip, but they basically said that there was a bit of a bust up, and obviously reasoning for why has come out, and I think it's really just. If he has chosen to target Kudus in this way, and I don't mean target in like a naff sense, but I just think if he's from the front three against Brentford in the first half, he was the brightest spark in my opinion. Yes, he could have released the ball at times, but I think I'm going to sound like I'm digging Antonio out constantly, but unfortunately, he's an incredibly frustrating player. And sometimes when you pass him the ball, you don't know what you're going to get. I don't think that's unfair of me to say. No. And when you know that basically you could do it yourself, or you have that option to pass it to someone who maybe isn't as good as you, I think we've all been there. If anyone who's played football at any levels, always, they have that player who's going, "Oh, pass it to me, pass it to me, pass it to me," and you're just thinking, "God, I don't know what I'm going to get," and I don't blame him, to be honest. It's not like he was constantly losing the ball and he had a shocker. I think he was the brightest spark in that first 45. So I think we can all, stipulate about what kind of season he's had, and I think even he would admit that he would like to have added goals by now. But I don't see the reason to take him off. I honestly don't. I think when your striker isn't adding goals, maybe you should look at that before you look at the wide players for that reason. And
yeah, I think for me, it's as you say, it was a strange decision to take off someone like Mo Kudus, who is one of the best talents in Europe. We are so lucky to have a player like Mo Kudus at West Ham. And as you say, he should be contributing a lot more goals and assists than he probably has done so far this season. We saw it last year, as you mentioned, I think he got like 14 goals across all competitions last year. Obviously had a slow start to West Ham. He wasn't a starter from straight away under David Moyes. So yes, he needs more goals, but again, you're playing him in a position where you're negating a lot of what his strengths are. And if you're playing as a left winger and you're left footed and your main asset is ball carrying, what else do you really have to do? Because he's not the strongest on his right foot. We saw him try cut in on his right foot from the left, and blazed one over the bar with his right foot. Another time, as you mentioned, he got the shot away, and could have done better against the goalkeeper. But I just think it's the wrong approach from Lopetegui if he's calling out someone like Kudus for not passing enough or being too greedy. Yes, I agree. There's moments where he has to pass the ball and should get his head up, but he's, as you mentioned, he hasn't had much to work from, especially in that 45 minutes against Brentford. A lot of time he was the isolated figure, and there just wasn't that much around him. As you mentioned, there's just not those options to connect with, even if he wanted to. And I think on the right hand, if you're playing him on the right hand side as opposed to the left hand side, you'll see a much better Kudus and someone who's a lot more natural at drifting inside on his left foot or passing out onto the overlapping fullback. It just seems like a wrong target to go after, especially as you say, there's other players in that squad that aren't performing as well as Kudus and won't have the effect Kudus will have on West Ham throughout this season.
I also just think from a really sort of cold and clinical point of view, if you're looking at it for the benefit of West Ham, who would you rather play? Someone who is in the final year of his contract and is probably going to move at the end of the season, or risk upsetting someone who has an £85 million release clause, and if you don't play him, isn't going to get bids around that source, but is unhappy and is probably want to go, and then you're not going to get the £85 million for, because other clubs know he's unhappy, so they're going to bid lower. To me, it's a really strange one, and I know that Lopetegui likes Antonio from his stint at Wolves. He's a big fan, and even Sevilla. But I think you've got to be realistic about this. And if you're putting a player who potentially has little to no transfer value over someone who could bring you £85 million in a transfer fee that can then add to West Ham in the future, I just find it completely baffling, especially when this is someone who, as we mentioned, has goals and assists in his game and has shown that at a very high level. To me, it's really, really baffling.
No, I completely agree. What do you think is the approach now going forward, Sloth? Obviously, we've got the game against Ipswich coming up on Saturday this weekend. Does he play? Does he start? What does Lopetegui do with this situation now? And is there a question around his man management skills already that we're having these conflicts, at the beginning of October?
I mean, look, I think we've had man management issues at West Ham for previous seasons, and it's something that seems to crop up. But I just think when it's your star player, as opposed to someone like Alex Corral, who was the issue in previous, that's probably the last big issue that I can think of. But I just think it's very, very strange kind of stall to set out if you're going to go.
Should there be a difference though, regardless of the quality of the player? Like the man management shouldn't change, or you think it should change based on the player's quality?
Well, look, I think maybe he's trying to get a response out of Kudus because he started the season slowly. But again, I kind of bring it back to who you're playing with, and I think it's incredibly harsh to hook him off at half time when he's playing out of position, in a position that, look, if you're an attacker and if you're a genuinely top quality player, it shouldn't impact your game massively. But as I said, I thought he was the brighter spark, and he has been fairly productive in games, and it's fine margins. He hit the post against City, and things could be very different. However, to me, it's wild to be backing a player who, as I said, potentially leaves on a free at the end of the season and is underperforming, as opposed to someone who's trying and potentially being a little bit selfish, which, how many times have you heard pundits, ex-strikers themselves say, I am a little bit selfish. I want to take it upon myself. I think for me, that's what I want to see in players at certain points. And I question the man management if he's not picked against Ipswich. And I would be more concerned that someone is putting their ego ahead of what is potentially better for West Ham Football Club.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to comment without knowing the full facts of what went into, as you say, the bust up in the changing room at half time against Brentford, or the misalignment of what was happening. And again, Kudus, we've said before on the channel, even before Lopetegui joined, fantastic player, fantastic ball carrier. There are definitely occasions where he can get his head up and pass, but again, he's that type of player that it needs to be coached in the right way, and he needs to be told in situations, not told off for what he's doing, because a lot of what he's doing with his ball carrying is massively helping West Ham and has done for a long time. He needs to be coached in the right way. And I do have a few reservations or concerns if the approach was wrong from Lopetegui, and it almost came across as a going off, a telling off, rather than we need to do X, Y, Z better. And especially taking him off at half time, I think that's not the right message, especially as you mentioned, for one of your key players in the squad who can make stuff happen. So yeah, I mean, it'll be interesting to see if he does play against Ipswich. If he starts against Ipswich, I think he will. This is Kudus we're talking about. It's not like I don't know. Don't want to throw any players under the bus, but he's someone that has to be starting for West Ham. We don't have much of a choice, to be honest. So yeah, let us know down below in the comments. What do you make of the Kudus Lopetegui drama right now that's happening at West Ham? Do you think he's going to play against Ipswich? Who do you think's in the wrong? Let us all know that in the comments down below. And yeah, if you enjoyed the video, leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and Sloth, till the next one.
Come on, you irons.